Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in this episode. We're going to be making chicken piccata today. I'm going to show you how back in the day when I used to work in the Sauté Station, when I didn't have enough room on the stove or the proper pan size to make multiple orders of this dish, how to make it in a small pan and to have it all consistent and uniform and just tasting great. So come along for the ride. All right, so I was home today working on the house, and I knew I had to make something for dinner for the family, so I figured I'd bring you along. I wanted something with pasta and chicken, so I looked in the refrigerator, found I had an open container of capers and some other ingredients, and I was like, yep, piccata is it. All right, the first thing you saw me do was season my dredging flour. It's the same ingredients I'm going to be using on the chicken, which is going to be salt, black pepper, granulated garlic, and granulated onion. I'm prepping up the rest of the mise en place so that everything's ready to go. Once you start sauteing everything, you don't want to take time to stop and chop and do different things because you're just going to burn it and the dish will not come out right. So you need everything in its place and ready to go. So once we get the garlic and onion minced up, I'm going to chop the garlic, get that into nice chunks. I'm going to collect everything on the cutting board and then move over to the saute pan. So when you saute or cook anything with a pan, you always want to make sure your pan is hot and that your oil is hot so your food doesn't stick. If you start with a cold pan, it's just, you're asking for trouble. It's not proper technique. Okay, so the next thing we want to do with our protein, we want to take the chicken breast and we want to make it an consistent, even thickness. Everybody knows there's a fat part of a breast and a thin part of the breast, so we need to make it uniform. We'll do that by tenderizing the larger part and making it a uniform size. By doing this, that will give us an even, consistent, uniform cook time for the chicken breasts. When you are serving the food in a restaurant, you're always thinking about presentation. There's always a good side and a bad side to any chicken breast or the cutlet. So after you see me season both sides of this cutlet, you'll see me flipping around the breast to find the presentation side, and I will keep the presentation side up so that I know that's going to be the first part we sear. Right there, I'm choosing all my sides. All my presentation sides are up, and I'm going to stack it and leave it that way. The reason you want to do that is because the initial contact that breast makes with a hot pan, that is going to be the presentation side, and that's the side you want floured, and that's going to give you the nice golden color to show, because the next piece, or excuse me, the next side, when you flip it, it never looks the same as the first side. It just never does. So if you think about presentation and you want to make something pretty, always choose the best side, which is generally the skin side of the chicken, but you don't always have that. So you just got to look and let each cutlet tell you which one is going to be presentation. And that's just eye of the beholder kind of thing. All right, so here I'm just flouring on one side, shaking off the excess, hot oil, hot butter, placing it in the pan. Now, when you do this, the next important step is do not move that cutlet. Let it sit and sear anywhere from 20 seconds to 50 seconds, and you'll see it start to cook and curl on the outside. You'll see a little bit of color change. Those are your cues. So this is going to be the technique that restaurants would use to cook multiple orders in a small pan. You are going to sear each cutlet in the oil in the pan, and then we're going to take it out of the pan and put it aside. We're going to put it on the sizzle tray to the right, and we're going to layer all the cutlets onto that sizzle tray, and then once they are seared on both sides, we're going to then build our sauce in the pan. When the sauce is almost ready, we're going to take those cutlets, we're going to finish cooking them in the oven. You saw me turn on the oven earlier to about 380 degrees. With the last 5 minutes left of the sauce being finished, that's when we would put the cutlets in the oven, get them up to temperature, finish cooking. Because searing them here, they're probably only, I'm going to say, 75% done. All right, so now the cutlets are put to the side. Now we want to use the pan to build our sauce. I add a little more butter, a little more oil, just because I want to add some flour to give it a little body to it. And also, I want to be able to pull up any of the brown bits that were on the pan in the pan. You never want to get rid of them because that gives you your flavor. I always add my garlic first and by itself because I like it to brown. I always found that when I add the onion and garlic at the same time, I don't get the nutty, garlicky flavor that I would as if I added the garlic by itself. So whenever I cook saute, I try and do that 95% of the time. To me, it just gives a better flavor in the finished dish. So once you get your onion and your garlic sauteed and translucent to where you would like it, you always want to deglaze the pan with wine, but you always add a little bit of the flour too, because just before you add the wine, just to help bind things up. And here I'm adjusting, adding a little bit more flour because it was still a little too loose. All right, so now that we're finishing up the sauce, did anybody catch the mystery ingredient that we were missing from the cutting board? Don't forget to comment. Okay, so now that the sauce is a few minutes away from completion, we pulled out the chicken cutlets out of the oven, placed them in the sauce, and we're doing a Mont au beurre. The French have a flair for the dramatic. Mont au beurre means its translation is Mount of Butter or Mountain of Butter. When you add butter to the sauce at the end, you give it a shine and a luster and a richness. Richness. Can't even say it. Okay, so let me put this in layman's terms. Butter at the end not only adds calories to my waist, but it makes the finished sauce taste delicious. It just completes it, brings everything together for a total and complete sauce. The French did that right. Okay, so we're here at Final Plate Up. We are taking our piccata and we're going to be putting it over buttered noodles. We're just divvying up our dinner now. It's for my son and my wife and myself. It was really good and it was really filling. In all honesty, the size of these cutlets were about 7 ounces each. We all had leftovers for the next day. So technically, this could have made up to 6 meals if I made a little bit more pasta. It would definitely cover six, no problem. All right. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys on the next one. Any questions or comments, please share below and don't forget to share with your friends.